Hi, everyone. Sean Gilliam here. Welcome to my market forecast for 2024. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at important data that shows trends of what things look like in 2023 and what we can expect to see as we get into 2024 with regard to the real estate market and the local economy here in Colorado. So stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Estate on the Front Range, my podcast where I cover all things real estate here on the Front Range in Northern Colorado. Join me to get market updates, tips, and information on relevant topics to make sure you're fully informed before you buy or sell your next home. This is Sean Gilliam, your host, and I look forward to you joining me on Spotify, Google, Apple, or whatever your favorite podcast is for the latest episodes. All right, welcome back. Well, let's go ahead and get into the data. I'm going to highlight some information from the local MLS. It's going to highlight the number of new listings and how that trended throughout the year, as well as average sales price and some other key metrics to give you an idea of what was going on in our real estate market. And then also I'm going to highlight what we can expect for next year. Like I said, I'm going to be looking at data from the local MLS. I'm also going to be taking a look at the economic outlook that's put out by the Leeds School of Business here at CU in Boulder. They do a lot of great research every year and put together some great data for the state of Colorado. And so I'm going to be highlighting some of their findings so that you can get an idea based on data as far as what we're going to see here in 2024. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take a look now at the trends that we saw in 2023, and then we'll get into the information for 2024. Let's start by taking a look at how the housing market trended here in Northern Colorado. As you can see, we're looking at Boulder, Larimer, and Weld counties, and we're looking at new listings to start with. And we're going to see here that the trend is going downward in 2023. If you look along the y-axis here, we're at 2020 over here. We saw the regular seasonal fluctuations as far as new listings are concerned. The peaks were about the same across the board. And then when we get into 2023, there's that buildup because of the higher interest rates. More sellers are not motivated to sell because of those higher interest rates. And we can see that the peaks are lower. So fewer new listings in 2023. And again, that's a reflection of where most people are at. Most homeowners that have a mortgage right now, according to Redfin, they put out some data that says that in Colorado, over 92% of homeowners have a mortgage rate below 5%. So if we're looking at mortgage rates that were in the 6, 7, and even 8% range, as we saw in 2023, naturally, a lot of sellers are not motivated. In fact, the typical buyer and seller that are out there right now are those that have to. They're highly motivated. It's a change of job. It's a change in life circumstances, a retirement, what have you. So their significant life events are causing people to move right now. But for the rest of people, because they're already locked into those much lower mortgage rates on their current property, they're not going to get out and buy and sell a home until those rates come back down where it's more comfortable and they have more purchasing power. So that's what's going on with new listings. Let's look at the inventory of homes for sale. As you can see here, looking at 2020, there was a pretty good amount of inventory. COVID hit, and then that's when the market really took off. That's when everybody came out in a frenzy. And of course, back then we still had lower interest rates and all the homes were getting bought up fairly quickly. And we saw that trend continue into 2022 when rates were still fairly low, down in the threes. And then they hopped up into 4, 5, 6, and all the way up to 8, as we saw this year. And that's why we saw the inventory of homes for sale increase and stay higher. They had higher peaks, higher lows, and that continues here into 2023 because homes stayed on the market longer. There was less activity, less closed transactions. And so that inventory data was piling up month over month. And that's why we see the trend here in the graph that we see. Again, some seasonality, but a pretty significant increase in inventory overall. Not because we had a significant amount of new listings, but only because homes are just sitting around longer. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at closed sales. Closed sales, as we can see here, going back to 2020, that's when the market really became active after people were kind of let out after COVID restrictions. There were still COVID restrictions, but not as intense as they were back in May. But yeah, we can see that the market overall the number of closed sales is indicative of the fact that it was a very active market and homes were selling quickly. And then, of course, as we get into 2022, when those rates started going up, that's when the number of closed transactions or closed sales steadily started their decline into where we're at today, or our most recent data in November of 2023. So again, this is all indicative of the fact that the market has slowed down because of those higher interest rates, less buyers on the market, less sellers on the market, and therefore less transactions. All right, days on market until going under contract. So this metric takes a look at the day that a house is listed until a seller accepts an offer and it's showed as being under contract or pending on the MLS. And obviously the trend, in 2020, we saw a lower amount of days on market. Homes were selling quickly, especially in 2021, and all the way down into the spring again of 2022. And that's when those rates started creeping up. And that's when homes really started to sit around longer. It peaked in February, January of this year. And while we did have a spring market, those are higher lows and higher highs. And that's all indicative of the fact that homes are sitting around on the market longer. And as you've probably seen, if you've been involved in buying or selling a home in this current market here in the last year, that homes stayed on for 60, 70, 100 days. We've seen a few of those. And also we've seen people have to do a price drop sometimes significantly to get their homes sold. So that's what this metric is representative of. They all come together to show the same thing. We've got a slowing yet stabilizing market. Related to that, homes for sale, or the inventory of homes for sale, is our month supply of inventory. And when homes were moving faster back in 2020, 2021, the month supply of inventory is very low. In fact, fairly often it was below 1 month supply of inventory, which means it's a strong seller's market. Homes are flying off the shelves. But then when those rates started going up in late spring, early summer of 2022, we see the month supply of inventory steadily increasing. Again, that the data of inventory is piling up on itself from month to month. And we've hit some new highs in recent years here in the latter part of 2023, again, because homes are moving slowly. And of course, October is when those interest rates hit 8%. So it all makes sense. All this data is showing the same thing that I've already talked about, but now you can see it here on the graph. And then lastly, not lastly, I shouldn't say, percent of list price received. Back in 2020, homes were on average selling at the original list price. And then when the market really started picking up later on in 2021, that was a very active market. Homes were selling on average above list price. That's when we saw homes go under contract in the first weekend, multiple offers above list price. And then some seasonality, in the fall. But again, winter of 2021, homes were still selling at 100% of the original list price. And then we saw again a very active spring market. And then we get into 2022 when those rates dropped. And that's when we saw homes sitting on the market longer. Buyers had more negotiating power because sellers were motivated. Again, the only people that were really selling homes in the last year and a half were people that had to because of major life circumstances. And so they were motivated, dropped the price. And that's when we saw that percent of list price received drop well below, well, not well below, but below 100%. And saw some seasonality in the spring. Homes were selling at 100% on average, and then they started to taper off again until where we're at now here in November is our most recent data. We're 95 for Boulder County, 97 for Larimer and Weld counties. So it's indicative of the market that we're in. And I suspect, though, that will change here in the spring market. We'll see another seasonal impact of the market. And with those lower interest rates, hopefully they'll stay low when we get into the spring. We should see that get back up to 100 and maybe higher. We'll see. Now, lastly, we'll take a look at the median sales price and see how that has trended in the last few years. As you can see here, February 2020, the market was stabilizing. End of 2019 into 2020, things looked good for the housing market overall moving forward. And then COVID hit. And then, as you know, it took off. And so that's why we see the gradual steady increase in home values or average or median sales prices. And then as we get into late spring, early summer of 2022, it tapered off. We did see some price reductions, but overall, nothing significantly. As you can see here, it kind of moderates. It kind of levels out. We see some fluctuations, but nothing significant. At least in Larimer and Weld counties, we did see some fluctuations in Boulder County overall, but that's kind of its own thing. But overall, that speaks well to a stabilizing market. We're not seeing significant decreases. We're not seeing the significant increases that we saw in the last few years. And that overall is a good thing. It's an indication that while supply is low, demand is still strong and will continue to be strong over time. I should qualify that that it's pent up demand. There is demand. There are a lot of buyers waiting on the fence right now for those rates to go down. And so there's a constant supply of demand, if you will, and that will cause the market to continue to be stable. Those home prices will continue to be stable overall. And then when those rates go down and stay down, that's when we'll see an uptick in home values, but probably not significantly, just because home values are already high. And so if we get into a situation where there's multiple offers, people are not going to be going too far above list price. I've seen a couple of those here even in the fall, and that's what I suspect will be happening as we get into 2024. So that is the data overall, the trends that we've seen in 2023. Now I want to go ahead and take a look at mortgage rates. So looking here at mortgage rates and how the rate has trended from January 1st of 2022 until today, you can see here at Mortgage News Daily, great website to check out to keep on top of mortgage rates if you want to do that, if there's any nerds out there that want to check into the daily data. But as you can see here, rates were down in the threes at the beginning of 2022. And then we saw a pretty robust spring market. And then from about April, May, June, it just continued to go up. We got into the sixes and then even into the sevens towards the end of 2022. Dropped down a little bit once we got into 2023, and then there was a steady climb into the sevens and topping out in the eights in October, mid to late October. And now the good news is they've, as of today anyway, this is December 28th, 6.63% for a 30-year fixed rate conventional loan. This is definitely much improved from the 8% we just saw a month and a half ago. And I think hopefully this will be motivating to buyers out there. There's always the option. A lot of sellers that are out there are still very motivated and may help with paying down that rate even further. So that might even get you into the fives and thus increasing your purchase power and lowering your monthly payments. So moving in the right directions. The forecast as far as mortgage interest rates, they predict that we'll be down into the low sixes by the end of 2024. And, hopefully sooner than that. Hopefully the trend continues. We've gone down rather significantly just in the last month. I should say just in the last week, especially going from the sevens into the sixes. But you know what? The experts have been wrong before. They predicted that the end of 2023, we'd be looking at fives, and one even indicated maybe into the fours, but we know that didn't happen. So just something to keep your eye on. As I've always encouraged buyers that are on the fence about getting out to buy a home, always be ready, have your ducks in a row so that when the rates go down to a comfortable level for you, you can get out and shop and buy the right house for you. Hopefully before the rest of the market comes out of the woodwork and floods the market. And hopefully you can avoid those multiple offer scenarios. So just something to keep your eye on. I've already let people that I work with know about the mortgage interest rates and, get yourself ready so that you can pull the trigger when it's time. And you never know if those rates will go back up, or if they do go down, there's always the adage that you can refinance if you need to. So there is that option as well. But I think right now with the lower rates paired with a rate buy down, whether you add money or a seller adds money, will help you to get into much more comfortable monthly payment scenario than it was just a month ago. Now I want to take a look at data from the Colorado Business Economic Outlook that's put out every year by the Leeds School of Business at our very own CU at Boulder. It compiles data from the state as well as the nation and helps us to get an understanding of the overall health of the Colorado economy. And of course, this directly impacts the health of the real estate market. So I'm going to take a look at some key points of data that they came out from in their study and help us to understand what the housing market will likely look in 2024 and beyond. The first thing I want to take a look at is population growth. Now, I've kept on top of this or kept track of this, and it's been interesting to see for the decade from 2010 to 2020. Overall, we saw a pretty steady increase in population to about 74,000 on average each year. That tapered off when COVID hit, and I think also the affordability of housing played a role into that in the recent data. But overall, population growth has tapered off, but they're expecting or projecting it to increase. So here's some key points that came from their study about population growth. It says while population growth slowed in the last couple of years, net migration is forecast to increase due to both job growth as well as retirements of baby boomers and the need for their replacements. They also point out that for the decade between or starting at 2020 until 2030, 6 years from now, the state's population is projected to increase by 600,000. They're projecting that 88% of this increase is projected for the Front Range. So this means for the housing market, steady demand. We will have a strong amount of demand moving forward as more people continue to move to Colorado. And so that bodes well for the real estate market. That means home values will continue to at least be stable. And when those rates go down and we see more activity in the market, we should expect to see those home values steadily increase over time. Another important metric that they took a look at is job growth. According to the report, they said it's estimated that for 2023, the increase in jobs was 64,500, and that's an increase of about 2.2% year over year. In fact, Boulder saw an increase of 2.9% job growth. Fort Collins Loveland market saw an increase of 2.7%, and Greeley saw an increase of 8%. In fact, the only metropolitan area that saw a decrease in job growth was the Denver Aurora Lakewood market, and that was down about 0.5%. So, not a significant decrease. It's also forecasted that Colorado will see an additional 41,900 jobs in 2024, an increase of about 1.4%. So growth is good to see in our local economy. One of the headwinds that they expect is that there might be a shortage of workers to fill some of those jobs. So that's something to be aware of. But overall, job growth across Colorado is expected to continue to increase, at least moderately. Now let's take a look at Colorado's gross domestic product or GDP. This is an important metric in measuring the health of the economy. And when we look at the data, according to this report, in 2022, Colorado's GDP was at 2.2%. As of the first quarter of 2023, it was at 1.5%. So a slight decrease in our GDP. However, in relation to the other states, uh, the average is 1.6. So we're neck and neck with the rest of the country as far as GDP is concerned. Colorado's unemployment rate, according to this study, was at 3.3% as of October 2023, compared to 2.6% in August of 2022. So a slight increase in unemployment. However, it's a good thing to point out that Colorado had the fifth highest labor force participation rate. So a strong labor force here in Colorado. As far as the forecast for Colorado's economy looking into 2024, this report said that the economy is forecasted to grow moderately. So, not a booming economy, but also not a failing economy. One of the most important factors that they contribute to a moderate growth in our Colorado economy is that there will be a decrease in the consumption rate. And so, we as consumers here in Colorado are going to be spending less money. Part of that is because of the lagging effect of inflation over time. It dips into people's reserves and it depletes their resources. And so people either don't have money to spend or it's the principle of the thing. They just don't want to keep spending money. And so people are going to pull back in their own personal economies as far as how they spend money. The good news overall for Colorado, as far as the job sector and what's contributing to the GDP of our economy is that they're going to continue to see economic growth and opportunity in the various sectors, including information technology, biosciences, medical devices, food processing, manufacturing, and plastics. So these various sectors are going to continue to improve Colorado's economy and its overall GDP. In summary, according to the Leeds School of Business, the market forecast for 2024 will look much like it did in 2023. They expect the housing market to continue to move forward as it has been. The only thing that is going to change that is as mortgage interest rates go down, and I would suggest also that they stay down. When that happens, that will bring more activity on the market, more buyers and more sellers, and this will put upward pressure on home values as we see more activity. I don't suspect that the home values will increase significantly throughout the year, but they should increase at least mildly, just because of all the activity that will come to the market when those rates go down. It is projected that rates will go down into the lower sixes and possibly even the fives. We'll see, hopefully, by year's end. When that happens, again, we're going to see the real estate market moving forward at a mild and steady pace. Overall, the Colorado economy is going to grow moderately. We're going to see more job increases and then also an influx of people coming to fill those jobs. So that will continue that demand for housing across the Front Range of northern Colorado. So that should also help us to have a stable market and even a healthy market in the years ahead. So I hope this was helpful information for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. Also, if your plans are to move here in 2024, whether to buy and or sell, let's go ahead and get the discussion started because I want to make sure that you're ready. If you're buying, that you're financially intact and able to get a good loan so that you know how much home you can afford. And then also, if you're selling, we have seen in this market that the homes that do sell are the ones that are fully updated and leave few projects for buyers to have to deal with when they purchase the home. So I can help you give you a review of your home and what things you'll need to do to make sure your home is in show ready shape. I look forward to talking to you soon, and we'll see you at my next market update. Take care.